Dan and Martin on March 11th. As this is Great Talk, Martin has rolled in. We're presented by the good folks at Lou Fusz and Lou Fusz Automotive. Find out more at Fusz.com. Martin has come in with no notes. First time that we've been doing this over enormous amount of years that Martin has come in and has no notes, but just ready to rapid fire and just kick it old school.
It bothers you. That's why I'm starting to do this now, because
it doesn't bother me one bit.
You look at my notes, it's kind of like, is it Linus that had the blanket on
yes.
Charlie Brown? Okay. Those notes to Dan, even though it'd be my blanket, Dan looks over and doesn't see my blanket, gets a little concerned.
Well, we're covered when you come in with notes.
I know. Well, we're still covered, and I said what I would like is for you today. You go anywhere. You spin that wheel in your head, Dan. Throw it at me. I will react. We'll go. Any topic.
Okay, shout out to a guy that listens to our podcast.
Your brother.
No, every single – I don't think he does. Every single week.
Kevin has just been called out.
I don't think he does. But every single week, this gentleman does. And he's headed to the Final Four. And that's our buddy Kevin Walsh, who is the head coach at Vianney. And that's where I went to school. You went to CBC. But Vianney is headed to the Final Four and a legitimate shot to win a state title, which would be amazing.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to him on the radio side. In fact, Kevin Walsh with his son on the team. How cool is that? Father, son.
Son's a hell of a player, too.
And I actually quote Kevin Walsh on occasion because he tweeted a picture. This is maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And he said that the caption says, nothing like a weekend of tournaments with your boys, quality time together. But the photo is him driving, and both kids have headphones on, are not listening to a goddamn word he says.
Well, that's the way it goes.
I
you
say
know
that to my wife all the time. She's like, oh, we got all the – and you turn around, everybody's on a device. Nobody gives a rip what anybody else is saying. So, yes, congrats to Kevin Walsh, loyal listener who I believe has some Scoops merchandise.
He does.
Would it kill him to wear it at the Final Four? I mean,
put a hat on as he's walking into off the – you got to get the bus shot. You know, the guy's walking off the bus, and there's Kevin with a Scoops hat.
Do they do that?
That would be awesome.
Misha probably doesn't allow bus shots. Why did we start that? I remember covering the Packers.
I bet you watch it, though. I do. Well, guys are in street clothes.
I don't tune in for it.
No, but I mean, you pay attention to it.
I don't really.
Yes, you do.
No, why? Well, it's forced on me. I mean, it's part of the coverage.
It was amazing the shot I saw of City walking off the bus, and there you were.
No, here we go.
High-fiving guys saying, come on, let's go.
Butt slaps saying, let's go get him. Hey, Coach, are we doing the diamond tonight? We'll be in the 4-4-2. What is the plan tonight for the lineup? But those shots, what I think it goes back to, always NFL, but when I covered the Packers in Madison, you would go to the team hotel, and we did this with the Rams when I got here. You go to the team hotel when they're arriving on Saturday, and we would actually, because every station, you just got to have fresh footage, Dan, fresh footage. And you'd have the Packers getting off the bus they just took from the airport to get to the local Crown Plaza or wherever it was, just to show them, and then you'd file your report for the night, and yep, they're here. Modern transportation, still working. And then it became Sunday morning. Oh, they're walking into the building. We just can't have enough footage. Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre threw 6 touchdowns the week before. No, that footage isn't really interesting anymore.
No,
I need a guy carrying a duffel bag and wearing Beats.
You watch. You don't even think you do.
I don't
you
watch for that.
I'm not saying you watch for it. I'm saying when it pops on, you stare at it.
I yell at it every time.
No, you don't.
Tom Brady. Oh, great. He's wearing a fancy sweatsuit. NFL Network breaks down what they're wearing.
Do they really?
Yes, it's become like a thing.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it's that
bad. Oh, you watch. Yeah, you do.
No, I don't, because I don't watch the NFL Network hardly ever.
Okay, so the point is, you don't have to. ESPN is the NFL Network. So the point is, Kevin Walsh, would it kill you when you're getting off the bus to have a Scoops hat?
Be awesome.
While walking into the building. They won
Chaminade,
DeSmet, all advanced. My guys at Vashon advanced.
So a lot of St.
John
Louis
Burroughs is coached by Pee Wee Leonard. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
The Burroughs girls made it. Incarnate Word's incredible winning streak still going. We've got a ton of teams. And a shameless plug while folks are listening, other than Dan's brother, Fox 2 will be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe Wednesday too. Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for semifinals, finals. Looking forward to a fun time of year.
Absolutely. You got the Masters coming up. You got the Players' Championship this weekend. Many people believe that should be the fifth major. And for those of you that love golf like I do, this is kind of the real good kickoff to, at least for me, that some of the top events that are coming up. College basketball, high school basketball, Cardinals not that far away from opening day. And Martin was at March Madness, and we talked about you doing some play-by-play. I gave you some tips. Did you think about the tips at all?
You did, because as I prepared, this is for the Valley games that were on KTRS. Thursday, I did the first game, which was Murray State versus Missouri State, which, Dan, could be a bit of a tongue twister there.
Yeah.
And then on Friday, a lot of fun because it was Indiana State. The top seed got to see Robbie Buckets, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Seth Blurry, they call him, because he's got the rec specs. Got to see that team in action against Missouri State. You told me to don't over-prepare. Well, when Bobby was in third grade, he had a Kool-Aid stand. Just know the players, call the game in front of you, react to, wow, they're really out of sync offensively. And you're right, focus on the game at hand. And I think it went fairly well. I just don't know the teams.
Who was your analyst?
Coach Z, Rich Zavosik. He was
Good
the
guy.
Coach at UMKC
Yes,
for a
he
while.
was.
It's amazing. Like the officials come by, they're like, hey Z, once you're in the college basketball world, they all know each other.
Yep.
He's great. I could just put it on a tee. He knew when to talk, when not to talk, and it was a lot of fun. And I saw Indiana State, and I said, this is an NCAA tournament team. Whether they make it to Sunday or not, of course, they lost to Drake. That is an NCAA tournament team. They're really good. Coach Z said, don't worry, they're in. I said, I don't know. How do you trust the committee?
Almost have to get to the finals when you're
For sure.
mid-major.
That's what I said. I think if it's those two that make it to Sunday, Drake and Indiana State, you should be good. I love the Valley, love all the people associated with it. They work hard. They do a great job. Sounds like a typical media guy patting butts, but the Valley really is just efficient, professional, and I hope to God both teams get in.
I wanted to bring up the Blues deadline, which they did nothing, which is fine. I don't. If they didn't get enough for Buchnevich, that's fine. What I am sick of is this a retool or is it a rebuild? What's the difference?
Right.
I mean,
we're just not very good. How do you want to call it?
You want to patchwork what you have right now? You can say that's a retool. You get rid of guys. That's a rebuild. No, I mean, there was one player that you were talking about on the top line, granted, but still.
You're saying Buchnevich, had he been traded,
yeah,
then we would have called it a rebuild.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a rebuild. It would have been, okay, that's a kick in the you-know-what, and, he's gone, and you can address it in the summer if you want to patchwork the thing and then call it a retool. I'm sick of hearing about that. Look, they're just not very good. That's what it is. And they're trying to get through a season, be somewhat competitive, which they have been. My concern would be this is 3 straight years without going to the playoffs unless they do something remarkable.
Be 2, actually. They made it.
No, that's right.
This will be 2 in a row.
So I was thinking of next year,
I know Doug
too.
Armstrong listens every week, so I don't want to get yelled at.
They would have to win, the way I did the numbers, I think it was 95 points for the 8th seed last year. They would have, as of Saturday, had to win 14 of their last 19 to get in. They hadn't done that all year. Why would you think they're going to do it now? Now, they were only 4 points of Vegas at one point. I don't know what it is as we
I think they're 8 back right now.
So that it's not going to happen.
It's done. They know it's done.
I mean,
they play like they know it's done. That's my problem.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but also, I sit there and go, are they playing like it's done, or this is just who they are? This is just not a very talented team, and you gotta hope that these kids that they're promoting.
You almost said retool.
I'm not going to do it. You got to hope that these young kids that are coming up are what you think they are. If not, then the retool, rebuild takes a while. Now, they'll get some guys off the books here in the next couple of years, and you can go spend money.
Not soon enough.
No.
That's the problem. I think they're in purgatory because they're not in a rebuild.
That's what that's the perfect word.
And the names on the back, a lot of them are pretty legit NHL players, but they're just not a good collective group. There's something wrong there. Saturday, after the latest loss, 4-zip Rangers, 3 power play goals. The second one, you look, Bennington just hung out to dry. Like, here comes a guy. Where everybody?
Where would they be without him?
I know, it's unbelievable how often in a game, and sometimes he makes the stop, sometimes he doesn't, but how he just is all alone and like, here comes the other team.
Yep.
And you're like, where the hell is everybody? So I tweeted out or X'd out, whatever it was, Saturday night, I'm starting to think Berube wasn't the problem. And I did the guy shrugging his shoulders. That's like my favorite emoji because I don't really know the rest of them. And people didn't get it. They're like, oh, really? You're just now figuring it out? Oh, really? It was sarcastic. We need a font for X that says, this is sarcasm. Everybody was saying, duh. Oh, really? You didn't know that already? I'm like, here's my tweet the day he got fired 3 months ago, that he's a legend. This team's, I said, the roster stinks. And when I say that, I know there are, Braden Shen's a talented guy. Robert Thomas, very talented guy. But there is something a little just rotten there in the room. And I'm sorry, there's just something about that collective DNA. They don't have that old Blues grit or spirit. No. I said this to Doug Armstrong the day after they fired Berube, and I said, when you lose Pietrangelo, even Maroon, Perron, all these guys collectively, I said, have you kind of lost your edge, that kind of gritty, all those guys, even Steen at the end of his career. He was not fun for the media guys, but he was a little prickly.
Yeah.
And I think all those guys together have left, and Army's comment was, you can't keep the band together forever. And I wish I had the follow-up in the room should be, and I would tell him this now, is yes, but when David Lee Roth leaves, you go get Sammy Hagar.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he would get the reference or not, but the point isn't that, sure, people leave, but you have to make sure. I think one example is when they kept Nick Leddy, re-signed him, solid quality defenseman, good player. I don't have my metrics. I don't have my power rankings in front of me right now for defensemen, but they chose him over Perron. And I think that kind of, I think in the room, and Shen's a great guy. I think he would probably tell you this off the record, that the room's collective fight, and Bannister calls it out. Berube called it out. And this team is largely stuck together because of the contracts. Yes, you could add Snuggerud. Maybe Snugs is the key. Maybe Zach Bolduc gets on a scoring streak. So there are some younger names. Jake Neighbors has been great. I just don't see them being incredibly different next year. They're going to have to sell a coaching change. They're going to have to get a big-name coach and say he's going to come in and push all the right buttons. To me, that's their offseason right now.
I loved it over the weekend. Lance Lynn ejected twice in a spring training game by Angel Hernandez.
Yes, of course.
And that is a sign of things to come. Not that he's going to get ejected, but he is going to come. You're talking about a little grit, little rusty nail. You got it. Now, if he can keep the ball in the ballpark, that's the best part.
Yeah, that would help.
That would help a lot. But
might be getting ejected by Ollie if you don't get people out.
This is Lance Lynn to a T.
Was he in the bullpen when he got thrown out?
So what happens a lot of times?
He left the game and came back.
So you can do that in the first inning.
CYC?
If it's a rough inning, you can have the starter or whomever go down to the bullpen, bring somebody else in to finish the inning, and then start a clean inning if you wanted with that starter. That's how it works in spring training. However, he was going down, he got ejected. He was going to the bullpen to continue throwing to try to continue to build up his arm strength. And when he ejected him, he said, no, you can't be in the ballpark doing this stuff. You're out of here. You got to go. You can't be, if you want to go back to the clubhouse, you can do that, but you can't be in the dugout per se, and you can't certainly be in the bullpen, which is just ridiculous. Guys trying to get ready for the regular season, you just let it go. Let him go down to the bullpen, let him throw his extra side, then he'll take a shower, and he'll go back to Jupiter. Right. That's how it works, and he didn't let him do that. That's ridiculous.
And didn't Lance Lynn say Angel Hernandez was in midseason form?
I said that a few years ago when one of the first pitches of spring training was Jack Flaherty, and the ball was right down the middle, called a ball, and I said, well, Angel Hernandez in midseason form.
Maybe Lance Lynn stole your material.
He did. Maybe he had been watching that game. Who knows?
It's been a weird spring for the Cardinals. Sonny Gray's injured, trying to come back now. I think Danny's got a side session today. Everybody
does.
Alert the media. You have Lars Nootbaar, who's got some fractured ribs or something. You got Lance Lynn getting thrown out of games.
Tommy Edman.
Giving up runs. Tommy Edman still yet to return. Kyle Gibson the other day. I'm telling you, the night before, we're like, who haven't we really featured? Oh, we got an interview with Kyle Gibson from down there. Like, hey, I said, who knows? The way things are, maybe he'll be the opening day starter. Who knows? And then the next day he gets up like 6 runs.
Yeah.
So it has not been a overly encouraging spring. We're only 2 weeks away. This week we're coming up on 2 weeks from L.A.
Yep.
For the opening salvo.
That opening trip is tough, man. They got 4 with the Dodgers, and then Mike Schilt is going to be ready for that series against the Cardinals. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, talk about, and I know the exit here was painful for him. He talked about it a lot. But if you could land on your feet and end up being a manager somewhere, San Diego and a good roster, a roster where they spend money, it's a pretty good landing spot.
It is. And if
he was great to you. You like Mike Schild?
I love Mike Schild. I still text with him to this day. I don't know. People say, well, what were the philosophical differences? I don't know. And they've kept that tight-lipped. They've moved on. Each party has moved on, and it's time for Mike to do some winning in San Diego and for the Cardinals to win under Ollie. And that's just the way it goes. They just moved on from each other. I have no idea what the differences were. Obviously, there was something there because he wouldn't have gotten fired unless there was, and that's all she wrote. So it's time to move on.
The one thing I will say, we don't need to rehash all that, but in the Cardinals' defense, for whatever went wrong, John Mozeliak did say, if Mike Schilt would like to tell you what went wrong, we're fine with that. Like, we're not going to say it, but if he wants to, it's okay.
I didn't know that.
No, he said that on the record. Mo said if he wants to tell you what the issues were, we're okay with that, but we're not going to. So that's old news, but I think that's a pretty good way of putting it out there, like saying we're good with it. It's not our place to say.
I'm interested in what this team looks like when they break camp. I mean, there's a lot of guys that
it's a little disjointed right now.
It really is. So your outfield,
like Dylan Carlson playing like second or something, Dan.
Dylan
Carlson. Did he call him Dylan?
Mike called him Dylan.
Okay,
talking about Mike Shannon.
Yeah, well, Shannon, he could call him whatever.
It didn't matter. Dylan Carlson.
Oh, I don't want to I get off on these tangents in my head. Oh, by the way, I had a Vianney joke. Now this is just a check.
Easy.
We have to throw out a name every week, and then we find out if they don't tell us. Hey, I love the mentions. Then we know they're not listening. So Kevin Walsh is on alert. The other night, I was hosting a trivia night. It was at Chaminade. And they gave me the trivia questions. It's for Our Little Haven, which is a great organization. So I had the trivia questions. They sent them to me during the week. So just for fun, I was quizzing my son. These are geography questions. And honestly, he got about like 1 out of 10. They're pretty tough. So one of my jokes, we had some AV issues, audio. It was rough because this mic wasn't working, and we're in the cafeteria. Nobody can hear you. So a lot of the jokes, you just throw them out the window. But I did start with, because we had a delay because of the audio. And then we got going, and it's like, hey, everybody, can you hear me in back now? What about over to the left? I said, Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal have or will end up making about $1 billion in the NBA.
And that's true. That's
about
legitimate.
$1 billion, maybe more for sure, by the time it's said and done. And I said, can we get some new goddamn AV equipment at Chaminade? So the joke about round one was it's geography. And I said, it's kind of tough. I said, I quizzed my son who's in 7th grade. And I said, my wife is hoping he goes to SLU. He got 1 out of 10. Looks like he's going to Vianney. And I thought, oh, I never got to the joke, Dan, because
I understand.
Because of the AV.
I understand.
Okay, so we've talked Cardinals, we talked Blues. You're supposed to pepper me.
I got it. Well, you're going on tangents.
Okay, well, sorry.
I like the City game. I actually watched the City game. I'm finding myself more and more watching the soccer when it pops up on Apple TV. I find it entertaining. I find it fun. I'm pulling for the team. I'm thinking of you patting guys on the butts.
No.
But are you doing that? Are you finding that you're watching it a little more closely?
I'll tell you, it's related to hosting that night because you're no phones at a trivia night. And I said, folks, I'll keep an eye on the score for you with City and the Blues. Blues losing to the Rangers. Nobody reacted. I said, oh, it's 1-0 Rangers. It's 2-0 Rangers. I said, City's losing. Everybody's into it.
Yes, they are.
As soon Leuven has tied it. Although somebody was trying to help me, they said, Lowen scored, and I said, what? They said Lowen has scored. I said, oh, Leuven.
Yeah,
get with the program, son.
Yes.
And as I gave those updates, people were cheering and oohing and on. It's unbelievable how this town, yourself included, captivated by it. What I'll say about City, they have a flair for the dramatic. Even when they don't win, this happened at home, one of those games, a late goal is the equalizer, Dan. We call it the equalizer. And you've got a younger guy, Celio Pompeo. It seems like they have...
Whoa. You really got into the pronunciation.
Oh, for sure.
You were shaking your shoulders a little bit.
Well, we're very close, Celio and I. But another one of the young, talented players that can score. They got a lot of guys who can score. So even though they didn't win and they outshot Austin by a ton, I think they felt like they should have won. 93rd minute, they call it stoppage time, Dan.
Yeah.
I call it pretend time because the referee's the only one who knows how much time is left.
It's a good call.
But that was exciting. And more times than not, City puts out a kind of entertaining brand and a thrilling finish.
Are you at the point, though, where
Dan's moving on with my thoughts? Yes.
No. I mean, are you at the point where you'd rather – here's my problem right now at this time of year, which I said is great. I don't know anybody in college basketball. I know Caitlin Clark, and then I see just a bunch of transfers all over the place with men's college basketball. It is because I got to get my brackets ready. I couldn't tell you who's on these teams. They've jumped from all over the place. I mean, there's a kid at Michigan that jumps to Kansas.
Hunter Dickinson,
Love had transferred.
Caleb Love's at Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, these are kids that I would follow because they were at one place. And I'd say, okay, I know that they have this kid. I don't know who's on what team anymore. And that makes it hard for me to follow the college basketball game. Right now, your numbers on Fox have jumped almost 50% for women's college basketball. That's the Caitlin Clark effect. If I'm the NCAA, I got to find a way and to keep her. I don't know how I do it. She's already said she's going to the WNBA.
But everything's subject to change at this point, right?
Find the money to keep her. Now, from an athletic standpoint, competition standpoint, she's saying, I want to play against the best in the world. I'm sure the WNBA is saying we have unlimited resources potentially to get you paid what we think that you're worth. But if I'm the NCAA, man, I got to try to find a way to keep her. I don't know how I'd do it, but I would. I'd say Iowa, we got a lot of national brands that want to be affiliated with her. We can get her paid. We got to try to find a way to keep her at college basketball.
I thought she would stay just because of all the money available at the NIL level and how huge her brand is right now. But I'm guessing the WNBA, if there's a cap, we can only pay you X amount, they must have figured out. Or
endorsements.
Or her own people have figured out.
Yeah.
You're going to make just as much. Don't worry about it. Go to the WNBA. You're still going to get Nike money. You're still going to get – and then somebody at Iowa was like, come back. You can be in charge of the soybean market. You know? Like every Mizzou game. How's your yield right now? And I love how farming, which is a great part of our state, is such a big sponsor of all things Mizzou.
Missouri Farm Bureau.
Yes, I'm sure it is in Iowa as well. I would love that. Mike Kelly would be in the middle of a game like, 3rd and 10 for the Tigers. Let's talk soybeans. And you're like, it just always kind of works it into the broadcast. But you're right. If I'm the NCAA, I don't know who's running that show anymore, but they probably did try. And I guess for Caitlin Clark, you've done everything at this point. It's just a new challenge. You're still going to make it.
That's what I'm saying. You're a competitor. Go against the best in the world.
And I'm sure there's tons of money out there for her as well. Will you watch some WNBA games?
If she's
because
playing,
of her, I think people will.
If she's playing, I will.
Which is massive for the WNBA to have that.
Going back to your trivia night, did you lose your voice at all? Those are tough to do, man. I've done
a lot of talking.
The AV goes out, and you got to scream, and people are getting, lubed up, and they're loud. You can't get anybody's attention. That's a pain in the ass.
Well, and so one of the jobs of doing a trivia night, I feel like, is pacing. Like, keep it moving. They can be really long nights. People are having fun, but they don't want to be there for 3 hours. So now we have a delay. So I kind of told myself, got to really watch the clock. And after the first round, one of the tables in front, I said, slow down.
I get that too.
I said, okay. And they said, can you repeat it? I said, which one? And they said, all of them. And I said, repeat all of them? So then with the mic on.
There are lifers that come in on these things.
Yes.
They want to win every one of them.
So I said, please, everyone, please write. If you don't know the answer, please write down the question, okay? You can always go back to it, Dan. There's plenty of time. Please write down the question. You get a few. Nobody was complaining. We didn't have any arguments with the judges. I always say this is for charity. If you argue with the judges, you're a loser.
I say that too.
Because there's no need for it. But, boy, that AV was tough, I got to tell you.
We were speaking about golf earlier. The Ascension Charity Classic is right around the corner. So AscensionCharityClassic.com, AscensionCharityClassic.com to get your tickets. Our buddy Jim Regna over at Triad Bank supports both of us, and we thank Jim. Do your banking needs at Triad Bank. Lou Fusz Automotive Studios, Fuse.com, and Lordo's Diamonds. They will be your family's jeweler for life. If you need jewelry, make sure you check it out. Great deals, LordosDiamonds.com.
We are in the Pasta House studios as well. You know the deal. You can order online, pastahouse.com, or So many different locations around town, including the newest one at the corner of Manchester and Woodlawn. Our friends at Marie de Villa Senior Living, great spot at the corner of Clayton and Wideman Road. Appliance discounters for all your appliance needs. They're online, theappliancediscounters.com. You mentioned Triad Bank for all your banking needs. And, of course, the MAC, the Missouri Athletic Club. We haven't done a show. We keep saying we're going to do that. Dan's there at 5 a.m. working out.
Having
a coffee.
Steam.
At 5 a.m.?
Oh, yeah. Getting my steam in.
Why don't we do the show from the steam room?
That would be nice. Equipment wouldn't work.
Roll some equipment. People go in the steam room with their phones
all the time.
Does the phone not get ruined with the humidity and the water and all that?
I guess they're waterproof. They have to be, and they put their earbuds in. Or I see guys that read the paper in a steam room, and the paper is turning into a napkin.
It's falling apart.
Yes. I don't understand that one.
I did research I was in an argument on the radio one time about a steam actually being good for you. Well, it is good for you, but that it's considered, I don't know if it's Sweden or one of those Nordic countries that said it's actually exercise.
Is that right?
They consider it exercise.
Well, your heart rate gets up.
Right.
So that makes sense.
It is considered exercise. Love the folks at the Missouri Athletic Club, mac-stl.org. We've got basketball this week. The early part of the week, Dan, you have the Billikens playing.
What do you think happens to Travis Ford?
You know, it's interesting. On Sunday, little blurb pops up, Coach Ford fired. And everybody's, whoa. Dana Ford, the coach at Missouri State, was fired. And they've been, honestly, kind of similar to SLU in terms of they're not bad. This was the first losing conference season that Dana Ford has had. Part of my research, Dan, for Friday, I was not able to unload on the audience. SLU will play Tuesday. There was a rumor going around. People at the Valley on Friday, just some other media types are saying they heard Ford was getting fired over the weekend. And I said they wouldn't do that. They got to play a game on Tuesday. You don't do that to the kids. You're going to play that game.
No, when you say Ford, you mean Missouri
Travis.
State?
No, people are
okay.
Some Billiken people are saying that's what they're hearing. I said there's no way they do anything. Whatever they may decide, they're not doing it until they at least play season finishes. Remember Jim Cruz 8 years ago was in Brooklyn. Chris May fired him before they left the Atlantic 10 tournament. I think if Travis is going to get fired, it happens quickly in Brooklyn. And I've tried really hard to get some insight on this. Nobody really wants to say anything. And
they have been really tight-lipped
not
about
even
this.
off the record. When I did my sit-down a few weeks ago with Travis, talking about what does he think and what's he been told, I texted Chris May, the athletic director at SLU, and said, do you want to chime in? Because last year, before the A-10 tournament, he did on-camera interviews and said he's going to be the coach here for a long time. And it was weird because there wasn't a ton of people saying he's got to go because they were still winning 20 wins a year. But I texted him that day, and he just said, great to hear from you. Thanks for the heads up. Go Bills, which means I'm not saying anything. My gut is that he's going to get fired. That's my gut.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're paying for it because that was always the issue.
The buyout.
Whether it's $7 or $8 million, whatever the number is, they owe him. You know, there is donor fatigue with all these programs. Hey, you want to sponsor the new building? Sure. Hey, you want to help us land some NIL kids? Sure. Hey, we need a new math building. Hey, we need an engineering building. So could you take out a loan if you're a school? I'm sure there's always a way.
Yeah.
And I'm not positive. I could be wrong, but that's kind of my gut right now.
All right. Everything off your chest?
Yeah, it is off my chest. I feel good. I feel we've covered a lot of ground, Dan. We'll get to the Battlehawks next week. I'll do my roster breakdown.
Good.
H. Balls and I are going to go through the entire roster.
I am happy A.J. McCarron's going to be back. I think that helps the franchise. I think it's a noticeable player. It's a face of the franchise. I do think that's important. I'm hearing, though, that they opened up the upper bowl. Not hearing, it's fact. And I wonder how big the crowds will be. I think you can get to 45 maybe in some of these games.
Wow. Yeah.
Or is that asking too much?
And the UFL has sort of taken on this whole mantra to the commercials that run, say, fill the dome, fill the dome. What I was told when they started opening up the upper bowl, it didn't mean they were sold out down low. They said there's just people who want to sit up higher. It's, less expensive, but they said a lot of Rams season ticket holders were nostalgic. They wanted to be in their section where they sat for a number of years.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean they've sold every ticket. Topping 40,000 is a lot to ask for a team where people don't really know the roster at all. As fun as it is.
I think they just want to see football.
Right. Well, and I found out my godson, who is 22, said he and his buddies just like going to the games.
Yep.
They don't really have a team. They didn't really get to experience the Rams from a, tailgate partying scene. So this is their team. So will they get over? I bet that opening game on April 6th. I bet they get over 40 on that one.
I think so. I think they will. We've covered everything.
I'm good. Yeah, we don't need to drag it out, Dan. It's been a lot of fun.
30 minutes.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, that's what we
normally
normally
do. Now
do.
you're mad that we're not going
we
longer?
normally do 30 minutes.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. So we've matched what you need to get out of your system.
I need to get down and get some video of all the high school teams getting on the bus. That's what I need to show on Fox 2.
So are you going to go down there yourself? Or are you sending Kevin? Or who?
No,
what are you doing?
I am off work Wednesday, Thursday, and my son and I are going to the Bulls-Clippers game on Thursday night in Chicago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy it.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, buddy. This has been
a great talk.